So hi everyone, I am Jollery Sabakaran from BEd 2B. So for today, we're going to talk about the colonial period. Okay, so but before that, have you ever wondered how the Philippines evolved scientifically and technologically during the colonial period? This report explores how Western ideas transform medicine, agriculture, and infrastructure. Don't you know that these changes were kind of a big deal in shaping our country? Okay, so without further ado, let's explore the impact of these innovations. Alright, what do you think are the contributions of these three former colonizers to the development of science and technology in the Philippines? Okay, Spanish colonization of the Philippines brought with them their own culture and practices. They established schools for boys and girls, introduced the concepts of subjects and disciplines, and it was the beginning of formal science and technology in the country, known as School of Science and Technology. Okay, so during Spanish colonization, did you know, class, that na-adapt mo tayo mga words na gi-adapt na to until now sa gikan sa mga Spanish? Um, um, plato, kutsara, tinidor, guwapo, guwapa, kaserula, uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, and so on and so forth, like that. And also sa traditions nila, like festas, festivals, celebrating patron saints, Santo Niño Festival. So, ato na siya na-adapt sa kanang Spanish. So, when the Spaniards came, they brought their own culture and practices that influenced the Filipinos. So, but before the Spaniards came, the Filipinos that time has their own culture and practices. But since naabot ng mga Spaniards, is nawala na to siya. Kay, diba, gilisan naman nila sa ilang own culture and mga practices. So, under the Spanish rule, there is an introduction of, we call it, economic hierarchy, or known as economic divide, in which concept that there are people that are rich and there are people that are not rich. So in that sense, those people who are not rich, they were treated as slaves. So the Spaniards treated earth that made use of human resources in the Philippines in terms of labor. So in that sense, the poor Filipinos that time became laborer for the Spaniards, and those rich Filipinos, they were the ones who was lucky and privileged enough to experience the formal science and technology in the country. They built schools for boys and girls with a curriculum patterned from Spain. So they established subjects that allowed limited students to advance their knowledge on various topics and subjects. So during the Spanish colonial period, there were institutions for boys and girls. So for boys, Colegio de San Jose de Letran and Ateneo de Manila. And for girls, there were schools such as Colegio de Santa Isabel and Colegio de Santa Rosa. Have you ever wondered how it was like to study that time? Okay, so their teaching method were mainly focused on religion, good manners, and basic academics. The boys usually had a more advanced curriculum, including Latin, philosophy, and science. Okay, so in terms of science, learning science in school focuses on understanding different concepts related to the following. So we have human body, plants, animals, and heavenly bodies. Okay, so when I say heavenly bodies, guys, is astronomical objects. So during the Spanish colonial era in the Philippines, house tools were a mix of traditional and introduced elements, including tools for construction like adobe and stoneworking, kitchen implements such as clay ovens, pugun, and daily use items like the ponca, manual fan, and nevera, or ice box for the affluent. Carpenters used molded wood, and artisans applied European influence techniques and decorative elements. Okay, so that one. So this isda pugon, where kanang ato siya sila magluto, mag-bake. Oh. So guys, so class, sa wala pa na introduce ang kanang awa pa na kuha ng kanang electric fan, so mao ni lang gigamit sa una. Like you just need to pull that one like like that, you pull and mo kana na siya og kanang hangin. And next is this nevera or the ice box. So man nilang gamiton to kanang man siya ang food storage ba, like that. Okay, so Filipinos developed ways to replicate the technology by the Spaniards using indigenous materials. Because the Filipinos are creative, they were able to replicate the technology brought by the Spaniards during that time. So Spanish technology, they used stone churches, tiled roof, European clothing, metal tools and weapons, farming tools and plows, boats and carriages, then religious art and icons. Sa indigenous materials used by Filipinos, we have bamboo, nipa, kugon, coral stone, pinya, abaca, cotton, local iron, brass, wood, bone, then bamboo, rattan, hardwood, wood, then coconut shell, and gold leaf. So the Spaniards also introduced some engineering works like bridges. Okay, this one. Highways, waterways, boats, and railways. Okay, so medicine and advanced science were introduced in formal colleges and universities established by the Catholic orders. Okay, class, so as what you have observed, sa mga schools na ilang gi-establish is from Catholic, Catholic orders, like yung mga santa-santa ba? Yun na. So, this one. Higher education schools founded from 16th and 18th century. So we have the Colegio de San Ildefonso in Cebu in 1595. Okay, 1595. So now it's kuha na siya, University of San Carlos. So former name ra niya ang kanang Colegio de San Ildefonso. So karon nahimo na siyang University of San Carlos. Next is Colegio de San Ignacio, 1590. This one. And next is Colegio San Jose, 1601. Then Ateneo de Manila University. Then also the University of Santo Tomas. So class, as what you have remembered, di ba arito nag-eskwela pod si kanang Jose Rizal that time. Okay. So, mano siya. This is what it looks like during night. Next is Colegio de San Juan de Litran. So, just like what I've said earlier na school for boys ano siya during the Spanish era. Then, also mga hospitals. So, I found out nga kani nga hospital, San Lazaro Hospital, na-establish ni siya during Spanish era. Okay, San Juan Lazaro Hospital, 1578. Considered as the oldest in the Far East, this hospital became the setting for rudimentary scientific work during the Spanish regime long before the establishment of the University of Santo Tomas College of Medicine. Okay. So, are you familiar with this one? In Tagalog, gitawag ni siya og kalakalang galyon. Okay, has brought additional technology and development in the Philippines. Although it is only beneficial for the Spaniards, these trades allowed other crops, tools, cultural practices, technology, and Western practices to reach the country. So the galleon trade only benefits to the Spaniards. So what I'm saying is that they were the ones who were benefits the trading or the products from the Filipinos. So they exploit, when say exploit, like pinagsamantalahan ba? They exploit our natural resources kay It's because our, 'di ba, we are abundant sa mga natural resources. And then they abuse our natural resources kay ilan na i-trade adto sa other countries, and the worst thing is that ang profits nga ilang mag-gain is only for them, so walay labot ang mga Filipinos. So mo to siya. Galleon trade contributed much in the growth of science and technology in the Philippines. Although it is only beneficial for the Spaniards, these trades allowed more economic and cultural exchange between Philippines, Spain, and other Spanish colonies like Mexico. New crafts, tools, cultural practices, technology, and Western practices reached the country. The technology to produce sugar, plant tobacco, and mining were introduced in the country. Philippines, being one of the centers of global trade in Southeast Asia during that time, was considered to be one of the most developed places in the region. So, don't you know, class, that the Philippines is known for kanang Pearl of the Orient. So, during that time, gitawag ang Pilipinas na Pearl of the Orient. Why? It's because katong mga trading, daghan kay trading ang nahitabo during Spanish era. So, particularly sa Manila. So, tungod ato, and because we are abundant sa mga natural resources, naa nato, then so, mo to siyang gitawag siya, ang Philippines gitawag Pearl of the Orient. Okay, the Philippines, also known as Asia's melting pot, it's because of the diversity of our culture. And as you have noticed, is katong mga culture and mga practices, they stayed with us. So that's why many they stayed with us. So that's why we have a lot of influences from the other countries, because of the trading happened when the Spaniards introduced that concept of trading. Yeah. So, but nonetheless, this allowed us to produce the ilustrados. So, ilustrados is the Filipinos that allowed us to open our minds in terms of the ideas of the Western technology that they had during that time. So, the ilustrados, so we have Jose Rizal, Marciano H. Del Pilar, and Mariano Ponce. Proceed to the American period from 1898 to 1946. So, the American colonized us for over 48 years. So, the Americans have more influences in the development of science and technology in the Philippines compared to the Spaniards. First, they established the public school system. Second, improve the engineering works. And three, improve the health conditions of the people. When the Americans came in the Philippines, their treatment sa kanang mga Filipino that time is different. Okay, so they came in the Philippines with the idea of investment. So when we say investment, it's iba sa ato kay investment is like mag-invest kag kanang kwarta kay example, you give money to that certain things. Then you expected that in return ang makuha nimo is mas dako na og value, like that. So in fact, that's the idea of Americans. So they want to improve the Philippines, and in that sense, they established the public school system. And then, so in Spanish, I told you earlier that their educational system is limited. It's privatized knowledge. So kumbaga, if you're rich, makaeskwela ka, but if you're not, you will become a laborer for the Spaniards. But the Americans, they saw the knowledge and science and technology to be for everyone. So that's why now they established public school systems. And aside from public school system, they also established a research university, also known now as the UP, or the University of the Philippines. We have a concept that we have a public school. It's because of the Americans. So this allowed all or most of the Filipinos to study science and technology. Okay, so during the American colonization, one of the first and most significant was the Philippine Normal School, now Philippine Normal University. They also established schools like the University of the Philippines. They established a modern research. Okay, mao to ang University of the Philippines. Created more public hospitals than the former colonial masters. Transportations and communication system were improved, though not accessible throughout the country. The American colonization, some notable public hospitals established were the Philippine General Hospital, or PGH, and the San Lazaro Hospital, which was actually already existing but got a major upgrade. In the American colonial era, modern transportation and communication systems were developed in the Philippines. So the roads, railways, bridges, ports, and even airports were built to improve mobility and trade. Telephone, telegraph, postal services, and later radio broadcasting strengthened communication across the country. This laid the foundation for the Philippines' modern networks we use today. So, mauna. Okay, so they reorganized the learning of science and introduced in public and private schools. So in basic education, when I say basic education from lower years, primary, secondary, like that. So science education focuses on nature studies and sanitations until it became a subject formerly known as science. So ang mga Americans class ang may nagkuha na nga subject nga science. They are the ones who were introduced that subject. We call it science. In higher education, so when I say higher education, like in a university, like mga nanos na mga degree, na degree nga gikuan. So the teaching of science has also greatly improved and modernized. Researches were done to control malaria, cholera, tuberculosis, and other tropical diseases. Americans came, institutions for science and technology were reorganized as well. For example, the former Laboratorio Municipal was replaced by the Bureau of Government Laboratories under the United States Department of Interior. The Bureau was established for the purpose of studying tropical diseases and pursuing other related research projects. Eventually, in 1905, the Bureau was changed to Bureau of Science, which became the main research center of the Philippines. And in 1933, the National Research Council of the Philippines was established. So developments in science and technology during the American regime were focused on agriculture, medicine and pharmacy, food processing, and forestry. In 1946, the Bureau of Science was replaced by the Institute of Science. So, next, Japanese period. So, from 1942 to 1945, World War II has destabilized the development of the country in many ways. Institutions and public facilities were torn into ashes, houses were burned, and many lives were destroyed. Okay, so the Japanese attacked the Philippines on December 8, 1941. When the Japanese came in the Philippines, mato World War II na to. So during that time, the American country was in war with Japan. And since the Philippines is near sa Japan and we are colonized by the Americans, so ang nahitabo ang Pilipinas became the war zone. So natuto sa kanang Bataan Peninsula. So that time is di ba daghan magipang tatag ang mga gipang establish ang Americans, but during the war is mo to na ang mga infrastructure nangaguba, daghan ang nangamatay, and ang mga katong public facilities were turned into ashes like that, mga balay nangasunog. So grabe kayo ang impact sa kanang World War II sa una. So during the World War II, the Philippines became the satellite for the mga Americans. So that's why we are the ones who were really destroyed at that time. Yeah, so during that time, I mean. Okay, class. So during World War II, we became the satellite for the America. So that's why we are the ones who were really destroyed during that time. Okay, so during the war between America and Japan, the Japan also was also destroyed, but the America is wala. Okay, so that's why naigitawag na what do you call that? Return of investment. So kay ang kapalit sa improvements and information sa science and technology, kay ang nahitabo ang Manila was destroyed. So the American destroyed Manila in 1945, was known as the Pearl of the Orient. So when the Americans destroyed the Philippines, mo to gibiyaan na lang ta nila, iniwan na lang sa ere ba inana. Kay it's because sila sad need sila mag-recover economically. So during that time nabili ng mga Filipinos to feed for themselves. Mato. So when the Americans kana left, nabilinta. That's why nabilinta without the manpower, human resources to develop the country of our own. So that time, so how unsaon man pag-develop na wala, sirang-sira na, wala gi-destroyed na anan. The reparation funds focus on building some institution and public facilities like schools, hospitals, and transportation system. The reparation of money from Japan was also concentrated on building highways and providing technological training and human resource development in the country. So it has explored the use of ODE, overseas development allocation, from different countries to help the country improve its scientific productivity and technological capability. So human resource development is at the heart of these efforts, focusing on producing more engineers, scientists, technology experts, doctors, and other professions in the country. So ang kaning ODE, so ODE or the overseas development allocation is the country gained its independence and became a new republic after the war. So rebuilding the country became a priority. So the country explored the use of ODE to help the country improve its scientific and productivity and technological capability. So moto siya. Even though Japanese is short lang ilang pag-colonize sa atua, but also nasa sila yung mga contribution. So in terms of science and education, they promoted teaching of Nippongo. Nippongo is a Japanese language, Asian values, and simple science lessons. So the Japanese reshaped schools to serve their colonial goals. So students were required to learn Nippongo and follow Asian values with only basic science. So encourage practical learning such as agriculture, vocational training, and physical education instead of Western focused academics. So lessons focus on practical skills like farming, vocational work, and physical training. So push for use of local resources like herbals, medicine, home remedies, and traditional farming because imported goods were scarce during wartime. So they encourage the Filipinos to kuan sa mga medicine na para na sila for aiding soldiers, para na sila pang puwersa ba. So they encourage mga Filipinos nga magkuan og mga medicine inana. So with imports cut off, Filipinos relied on herbal medicine, home remedies, and traditional farming. So, and of technology, the Japan improve our purpose transportation and communication facilities, roads, railways, and telegraph lines, mainly for military purposes. Introduced radio broadcasting as a propaganda tool, which later influenced post-war media. Promoted manual and local technologies in farming and handicrafts. Wala na siya nakuhan. Okay, so the Japanese improves roads, railways, and telegraphs mainly for military purposes. So they introduced radio broadcasting for propaganda, which later influenced the Philippine media. Also, limited imports pushed Filipinos to use manual tools and local handicrafts for daily needs. And in the nation building, established the Second Philippine Republic in 1943 under President Jose P. Laurel, which, though a puppet government, awakened Filipino aspirations for self-governance. So in 1943, Japan set up the Second Philippine Republic under Jose P. Laurel. So although a puppet state, it sparked ideas of self-governance and steer nationalism. So encouraged the idea of Asia for Asians, promoting unity among Asian nations against Western colonialism. Though mostly propaganda, it stirred nationalism. So they promoted discipline, hard work, and self-reliance, values that some Filipinos carried beyond the occupation years. So they emphasized discipline, hard work, and self-reliance, values that lasted beyond the war. Okay. So why is it called puppet state Mandiay? So because although it appeared to be an independent government, it was actually controlled and directed by another power. So even though in charge ato kay si Jose P. Laurel, but ang major nga mga decisions sa mga kuan kay control Japan sa mga Japanese. So mo siya gitawag og puppet state. So it's like a government that looks independent but is really being pulled by strings by a stronger power. So that's why it's called puppet state. Let's move to the influences in the development of science and technology in the Philippines. So the development of science and technology in the Philippines, based on its brief history, is shaped by several factors. So and influences. It always shaped by human and social activities, both external and internal. Okay, internal influences. we have the survival, culture, and economic activities. The external influences, we have the foreign colonizers, trades with foreign countries, and internal economic demands. So, and each of these influences have an effect on the Philippines and the development of our own science and technology. So, that's the end of our discussion. I hope you're learning something from me, and bye!